Hey there, so it is Labor Day weekend. We are in the long weekend. It is Monday. I don't have work to do, which is amazing. But I have been thinking about my content creator journey and where I am right now versus where I started. It's been on my mind because I think I've been shifting my priorities as far as what I care about and all the things that go into this whole thing. If you are new, my name is Karsten and this is my YouTube channel. I have a blog and a podcast, and this channel was something that I really started to talk about some topics that aren't typical for me, to explore and to create different things. And I think I needed that freedom because one of the hardest things about this content creator journey for me is not trying to pigeonhole myself or trying to keep myself to like one idea of a content creator or one niche, one lane to stay in, because I'm very much somebody that likes to pivot. I'm multifaceted, multi-hyphenate. I have a lot of different areas where I excel. I have different areas that are a struggle for me. And with content, I want to be able to make something that's true to me. And so I'm just going to chat about some of the struggles that I've been having and some of the things that I've realized along this journey. The first one for me being that niching down isn't necessary, but it can make it difficult when you don't. There's a lot of areas that I could discuss. I could stick to one lane, right? So if I was like the beauty girlies, the gym girlies, the makeup girlies, like there's a very clear lane that's defined. I struggle with that because that's not the case for me. I think my bag is mostly like wellness, mindfulness, inspiration, motivational type of content. And, that's where I thrive, I would say, because I genuinely enjoy encouraging people and motivating people. If I, try to take that step back and okay, let me stick to one lane, like I'm not really fully experiencing all that I can be as a creator. There's the part of you where you're exploring these things, and that can be fun, but then the frustration comes in when you're trying to apply for something or you're trying to like find an opportunity that's right for you and you literally can't find anything. And don't get me wrong, I've definitely have tried to manifest that, think about it, look things up, but I think it can be really overwhelming when you literally like you don't know where to start. Like you don't know what opportunities are available to you. And I think that's where I'm at in my journey of wanting those opportunities and wanting to find things that I can do and create content that I like. But then it's also like, okay, how do I start? Where do I get there? Another like hard realization that I've had is that I can't really do it like everybody else, and it's perfectly fine because we all have skills and talents that we're just uniquely called for. There's natural abilities that we have that like we don't have to try that hard. But I realized too, for the people who have been creating content like for years and years and years, content creators who have been able to make a name for themselves and stay relevant and just have that longevity in their careers, but they started pretty early on. And the other part of that is that the connections they have. So there's a lot of connections that you need that I don't necessarily have at this time. And I think that maybe early on it seemed easier, like it seemed like, okay, if I just make the content, if I just create something, if I do something that I like, yes, that's important and that will also take me far. But then there's places I want to go that I can't get to by myself. And, I need people to be able to do that. Like I need to have the connections. And so things that I didn't know. So I didn't really know much about creator agencies. The fact that you can apply, get signed, and there will be people who will be able to find opportunities for you, opportunities that will fit and, just really great things for you. I'm a dancer. I don't dance professionally, but within dance even, you can get signed to an agency, and that agency will be able to sign you and send you to these auditions and get you connected to actually get into those auditions, those spaces where you can get like the job. And the same thing is true for creators. I didn't really know that. I knew, that they existed, but I didn't really know like how deep it was. And I think it's a little bit of imposter syndrome, of just thinking, okay, I don't have that. I don't know how to get there. I'm not necessarily at a place to get there. I think as far as metrics right now, so Threads is still pretty new, but that's probably the platform where I have like the most engagement. It's kind of wonky because, you know, algorithms kind of suck right now, but I have like a little over 3,000 followers there. On Instagram, I have like 1,200, but everywhere else, as far as platforms go, the, follower subscriber count is not as high as somebody that has like 10,000 followers, or somebody that even has like 1,000,000 followers. Like, that's a lot, but I'm not there. It can be hard to remember that, just because I'm not where I want to be, or where I would like to be, or where I think I would like to be, that it doesn't mean that I can never get there, or that it will never happen, right? But the other hard reality is that maybe there are things that I've envisioned for myself that I think, are possible for me, or that I think will happen. But then, getting to a point of realizing like, okay, maybe this isn't working. So I have all these ideas and these things that I want to do, but if it's not happening, either I need to be honest with myself about what's not working and figure out a way to pivot, or to, break some of these habits or patterns that aren't helping me, or I need to like get real with myself and figure out, okay, is this actually for me? Like, what's happening? There's opportunity for everyone. We all have our own lane that we can go down. We can figure out, really what works for us. But I don't know. It's hard because it feels like as a creator, there's a specific way that you have to become a creator that like you're successful. Like if you're going to all these brand events, if you're getting sponsorships and partnerships, and you are actually in these spaces where you can talk to people who can give you those opportunities, like that is tangibly what success can look like as a creator. But when you're starting out, it's like, what do you do? That's a part of the journey, but I don't think anybody ever talks about, and some people do, but like realistically, people don't necessarily talk about how lonely it can feel when you're trying to create and you're trying to make content and you're trying to reach an audience or reach people that will resonate, and it just feels like it's not happening, and not because it's never gonna happen, but it just feels like I don't know, like, how are we gonna make this work? Realizing the patterns that I have to break for myself. So like consistency, discipline, I think it's a lot easier said than done, and I think the core of it is that people genuinely want to connect with people, and they want to find people who will resonate with their message, with their story, who will find value in what they're creating. But there's so much more that goes into it. And even though I genuinely love encouraging people and motivating people, I know that in itself isn't necessarily enough to get me to where I want to be. And it's really about positioning yourself to be seen, positioning yourself to be able to accept new opportunities, or to go to different events, or like literally just putting yourself in the spot to succeed. I know that it's possible to get to where I want to be. I know it's possible to get to a point of finding that audience and putting in the work, but it takes time. And maybe it takes more than a year, maybe it takes more than a couple years. It takes a while. Like there's people who have been creating basically for like a decade. I had a YouTube video when I first started, like in middle school or high school, with my sister, and we didn't continue it, at the time, but we always joke around and think, okay, what would have happened if we had actually taken it seriously? Like what if we didn't just stop at one video? Like what if we challenged ourselves to keep this going? Where could we be right now? I mean, and who knows? But I think that the way that the landscape has changed also is impacting a lot of things, because for somebody who's trying to jump in and they haven't been in YouTube for 10 years, there's already a system in place that you can't really change, or like you can't really break the mold or break the pattern too much, because there's a defined way of people who have found success. Like there's the way that you get there as a creator, and if you're not there, then either you find a different way or you stop. Now I will say that as somebody who is making something like a video, like a blog post, like a podcast, and sharing it for people to see or hear, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of courage, a lot of strength, a lot of bravery, and a lot of confidence in yourself. Even if you feel unsure, about what am I creating? What am I going to say? What can I do? Like there's still so much that you can get out of finding your unique voice and being confident enough to know that the right people will see it and resonate with it. We kind of minimize the impacts that we can have just because it's not big, it's not flashy, right? Like if you're a creator and you're not getting invited to all these events, you're not getting all these deals and partnerships and sponsorships and partnerships, it's like what are you doing? But there's a lot of positives about being a creator that, it doesn't look like sponsorships, but it could look like forming genuine connections, or it could look like having somebody reach out to you and tell you that, that podcast episode you made was amazing. I really enjoyed reading your blog post. And, you can't get there unless you put yourself out there, unless you share it, unless you consistently post it, unless you tell people about it so people can support you. When people say that you get more support from a stranger on the internet than your family and friends, I think it's true, to an extent it's true. Target audience isn't necessarily going to include your family and friends, but you don't need to risk your friendships and your relationships with the people in your life just because they're not liking every single post, just because they're not leaving a review. Like, it is nice when they do that and when people let you know, but you can't rely on those people to tell you if what you're doing is good enough. And the unfortunate truth is that at a certain point, you have to let that go. You have to let go of the fact that, like, oh my gosh, my friends aren't liking every single post. People have lives. And I think we forget that, especially as creators, because so much of what we do it's public. You put it on social media, you share it in a blog post, you share it online, you share it to your website. You're just constantly in a digital space. But for people who aren't creators, people who aren't doing it like that, obviously they got stuff to do. Like, we all have things to do. And I don't think it's worth removing yourself or ending friendships, just because they're not in the same space as you. Something else that's hard to hear and hard to realize is knowing when to stay in your lane. Not like you can't challenge yourself to do new things or move to new heights, new spaces, but really, like, staying in your lane. I know that there are people who I've never met in person, but I see their content, I look up to them, and I think, okay, wow, they're really doing it. And being able to be honest with myself, where it's like, okay, I'm not there, that's not my lane, I'm still learning. And we have to give ourselves the gift of time, because there's still time. There's still ways that we can figure out how to make this thing work. But you don't need to feel bad just because you're not in the same space as somebody that you look up to. And we're not all the same. We're not meant to be the same people. We're not meant to create the same content. And you can argue, not really a hot take, but I think in some ways a lot of people are making like the same type of content. And if you think of like beauty creators, lifestyle creators, the get ready with me, do makeup, get ready for this event. Oh, there's this place I like. You know what I mean? We're all making the same type of content, unless you're really creative in filmmaking and storytelling and you're really like thinking outside the box. But for the creators who are getting like those brand sponsorships, those partnerships, like, you could argue that a lot of the times it's the same type of content that's being made, but the difference in visibility, sometimes it does come down to the connection. Sometimes it does come down to who sometimes it comes down to who is able to like push your work out there. But I think the other part that you can't really change or take away is somebody's unique perspective and somebody's unique personality, somebody's ability to connect with an audience, because you could take two creators who are in the same niche, and maybe one resonates with you more than the other, and it could just be because of the way they make you feel. It could be because of the type of content they make, how they make it, how they speak. There's a lot of things. You don't have to like fight yourself so hard to try to be like that other person, because it's not worth it. I've tried to get more comfortable with making TikToks, with making reels on Instagram, with, just creating different types of content. And usually it's mini vlogs, I don't really do get ready with me's because like I have limited space. And so it would be really difficult to do that. I'm not a beauty creator. Like, I don't do makeup tutorials. That's not my lane. That's not my niche. And so I've been getting more comfortable with making different types of content and sharing it. I can make something and feel like, oh, I don't know if people will like it. But then seeing the types of responses you get, especially if you're sharing a message that's important, of people who support, or people who feel seen, or people who are like, yeah, I love these videos. And it's really cool, to be able to do that. But as far as that, where I'm at right now, I'm mostly struggling with trying to figure out, okay, how do I take it to the next level? Like what's the next thing after this? Like I feel like I'm really laying the foundation for myself, and my foundation has to be strong. It has to be really steady. But, from there it's like, okay, what do I build on top of this? Like, what are we creating? Like, what is happening? What are we doing, and why are we doing it? That's basically where I'm at. I would, much rather be my full authentic self and make content, as opposed to trying to fit a mold just because it makes sense. Like one thing that people have said is that, okay, you need to make sure that your page is one that appeals to brands. You have to make sure that, the content you're making is something that appeals to brands. And when I first started making any type of content, like brands are not who was in mind. I was literally just thinking about connecting with people and sharing my voice and having a different way of resonating with people in that way. But like, I wasn't thinking about, okay, how can I get Walmart to like this video? You know what I'm saying? I feel like I'm not really being honest with myself if I start pivoting and making content just to get a brand to notice me, like, I don't know. Overall, this is more of a quick ramble, a quick session with myself. You can almost think of it as like a audio visual diary at this point, of just unpacking how I feel about this whole creator journey and where I'm at, and thinking about where I can go from here. Content creation is something that I'm trying to figure out how to make work with my life, with my schedule, with all of the other obligations I have. But it can be fun, and it can be challenging, and it can be rewarding. And I think I'm just trying to get to the point of figuring out how to make it work for me. It might not look like everybody else, but that's totally fine. Things don't have to match everybody else. And the same can be true for content creation, for your career, for your hobbies, your interests. It's okay, if things don't go the way that you plan. But if anything, I'm going to challenge myself to find new ways to make it work. And I'll challenge myself to stay authentic to what I want to do. But thanks if you listen to the end of this. And, I hope we'll figure it out together. But that's about it. Okay. But I'll see you later.